Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be going to the racetrack. So a few weeks ago I had an experience of going to the Porsche racing experience. So driving a car that cost more than my first house around a high-speed racetrack and really getting the experience of, professional instructors, high-end vehicle, and this car is going to respond to every single move you make. And it was a pretty intense experience. And the one thing I took away from this, because as I'm, getting into the car, I'm walking away from this realizing this is exactly how our body works. My driver told me my only focus for the day was figuring out the gas and the brake pedal and figuring out how to maneuver between those very quickly. And I realized that this is a perfect analogy for our bodies, that our nervous system is the driver. But unfortunately, most people don't know how to use their bodies, or in this case, the vehicle. So that's what we're going to get into. And I'm just really excited about this experience because there were two parts to it. There was the driving experience where you actually got to get behind the wheel and drive the car. And then there was the other experience, which was they put you in the passenger seat with a professional race car driver.
Absolutely not. I'm a hard no on that.
Ashley usually comes to every single chiropractic seminar, and that's what this was. So it was business owners that own chiropractic offices, from one office to 10 and 15, and just getting into a room together and talking about best practices and how do we really grow chiropractic, this simple, elegant solution that we have for healthcare. How do we grow this to where people understand it better and we deliver it with just with that intentionality so that more people understand that chiropractic really is the solution to healthcare. And
the interesting part about this too is that I got to opt out of this experience because absolutely no. I do not want to do that. That does not sound fun at all to me. But you don't get to opt out of your health, right? Opting out is a choice that's not available. And you can try to say I'm opting out of this, but you actually can't do it because that's even a choice. Even when you're doing that, that's a choice in and of itself. So there were so many interesting things about this experience that I loved picking your brain. I loved hearing about it because there were so many levels of what you think you know about a car, because I feel listen, I worked for a car making company before. Yeah. I've seen under the hood on so many levels of it. And you think you know how to drive a car. And then when you got in there, you really learned.
Yeah. I don't think most people know that about you, is that you were working with one of the major car manufacturers. Ashley was a speechwriter for executives of a major, car company in the United States. And so she used to write speeches for all the executives. So as I'm coming back talking to her about this, it was funny. She was interested to hear what I had to say, but she's like, yeah, cars. Which your least favorite thing is driving. Driving and flying, right?
Yeah, don't love it.
So Ashley usually comes to these experiences with me. We learn together. We're business partners. And so we like to go to these together because what we bring away a lot of times is two different perspectives.
Yeah. And
so talking through this same thing, but I really wanted her to be there. I didn't know how much of it would be driving. I didn't know how much of it would be business. Yeah. But really what it was only about a 90-minute track experience with about 2 days of breaking it down and analyzing it, comparing it to the business of delivering chiropractic. Yeah. And that was actually my favorite part were the analogies. Yeah. That the first thing we did when we got back to the room, 25, 30 doctors in a room, was talk about, actually everyone gave one word for what their takeaway was from the experience. And we went around the room and 30 people gave a word. Some people were speed, right? Yeah. Some people were brakes. Some people were whatever. Mine was terrified. I was terrified at one point. Not unlike you, I didn't want to get in the car.
Yeah.
And to your analogy of in the game of in life, I don't want to call it a game, but in life, you don't have an opportunity to not be in your body, and you take ownership of this thing and you're responsible for it. Mm-hmm. And you're responsible for how much you push it. You're responsible for how you take care of it. You clean
You're responsible if you're irresponsible.
You clean your car every week, and you love taking it up there and washing it and cleaning it out. Some people never clean their car. Some people buy a car to try to push it to the limits, and some people never want to push it to the limits. Yeah. And so there's a lot of analogies there with the human body. But when we got back to that room and hearing people break down these analogies, I literally was just writing, all right, what are all the things that I'm taking away or I'm learning from this experience? Yep. And so starting with that first story, the direct quote from my driver was, Ryan, today your job's simple. Master the gas, master the brake. Master is a funny word. I don't know that I ever mastered either one of them. He said, if you don't understand the balance between the two, you're going to end up hitting the wall. Or in one point, there was an embankment. We actually had someone go up the embankment. Yeah. And, not something you want to do when you're driving a car you've never driven, an expensive car. I actually was at too late of a point questioning, what is my liability if I do wreck this car? I know I signed a waiver, but I forgot to look at how, am I responsible for everything or part of it?
How do I text my insurance agent?
Again, another question that sometimes we ask too late about our own bodies, right? Sometimes we're too late in the game, and sometimes we've created some damage, and then we're like, what's my liability in this? How do I get out of this? Can I just pay my insurance deductible and I'm going to be okay?
Right.
Or, is this something that I have to deal with? Yeah. And so these analogies, it's crazy. These are ones I didn't think of, but so that really stuck with me, is that on the track.
And you said, because you started by saying that you guys sat in a room afterwards and said, was it one word or just sum up your experience, which is really interesting, because at this time of year right now, isn't it an interesting thing to go, late December. Yeah. What was your year? What was health like for you this year?
What was the word that summed it up?
What could you sum up?
That's good.
And there's different divisions of it, right? Like when you look at what have we done before? Students of Tony Robbins, we've broken up that life wheel, right? Where we've looked at all the different divisions of our life.
Personal, professional, financial,
right,
family,
spirituality, all of those divisions of your life, and you're rating them on a scale of 1 to 10, and you can see some of them where they have deficits, and some of them where you're doing great. And the idea is to make that wheel not lopsided, right? It's to make it spin correctly. Wheel on a car too, spin correctly, right? So the interesting thing on this is that if you had to look at that chunk, that sliver that's labeled health in your life, what's the word that summed it up this year for you? Was it something or phrase or just idea that you think of? Is it something that if you take the temperature on it, are you outstanding? This year was phenomenal. Or is it something where you're exercise, yes. Nutrition, no. I mean, my kids. Yeah.
How did you handle challenges this year?
Yeah. How did you handle the yeah?
Did you really push and go after your goals and your health and your fitness and your finances and your marriage? Did you push and go after them? Did you hit the brake pedal on them? Yeah. Did you coast?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was one thing we never did on the track. I mean, virtually never. Well, I did some coasting, especially. So I think I did. I don't know the exact number, but it felt like 30. It probably wasn't 30. It was probably 20 laps around the track. In probably 5 of those 20, I did a lot of coasting.
Yeah, but you've said this so many times before. Go back. Listen, you can go back in the archives and grab this out. You're never standing still. You're always going forwards or backwards.
Well, yeah, and coasting is it's not, you're not hitting the brakes, but you're slowing down, right? Right. You're slowing down unintentionally. You're not hitting the gas. And that's one of the things that I really took away from this. So this was one of the things that stuck with me was on the track, you can't just live on the brake, you know what I mean, the whole time. And you can't live on the gas pedal the whole time. There's this dance between the two. And the dance is actually kind of interesting because when I was driving, I saw a turn coming up and I was hitting that brake prematurely, and I was anticipating a potential problem coming. So and this probably speaks to my character. There were other people on the track who were probably hitting the brake later than they should have been, right? Yeah. And that maybe speaks to who they are in life, is they maybe don't anticipate as much, or maybe they over anticipate their skills. And I heard some people saying their driver was yelling at them brake, brake, brake. And this is not like a driver's ed car where they have a brake on their side. Yeah, I actually asked that question when you got back. I said, did your guy have a brake? No, they didn't have a brake. So and at one point my driver told me, he said, just so you know, there's no brake pedal on this side. And so it behooves me that you don't wreck either. Like, I don't want to wreck either, so I'm not going to let you do that. But there were times, so I found myself either coasting or braking prematurely. And so one of the first things that my driver did was on straightaways, he was like, put the gas pedal all the way down. And so I'd put it all the way down, and I was getting up to speeds of 100 plus miles an hour. I don't remember because I wasn't looking at anything except for the road out on the horizon in front of me. And another one was some people were looking just over their hood, and they were telling us right away, like, don't look in front of you, look ahead of you. And then when you're making a turn, look where you're going to go, not so like if you're making a turn, you were actually looking ahead of the turn. And I think that speaks to that whole idea of, just being aware of the future. And what's the word I'm looking for? That we were just talking about this with core values the other day of having foresight. And so having foresight of where you're going, and in a vehicle, when you're driving at that speed, you can't look what's in front of you. You have to look at where you're going, especially in a turn. You have to look around the turn. This was all new to me. And so as I'm coming down the straightaway and I'm over 100 miles an hour, I see the turn coming up, and number one, I'm looking at the turn, not around the turn. And number two, he's like, keep on that gas pedal until I tell you to. Well, I'm waiting. He's not telling me. So I come off the gas pedal, I start hitting the brake. He's like, what did I just tell you? And I'm like, dude, we're going into the turn. Like, this is scary. He's like, no. You got to trust this vehicle. You can hold that gas pedal down right up until that turn, and then you're going to switch to that brake hard. So give me another 5 laps. I think I'm starting to do this. And this goes back to the dance between the gas and brake. And what I found was, in this situation, I was really good at putting the gas pedal down when I felt comfortable. Yeah. And I was really terrible at putting the brake down at the appropriate time. I was hitting the brakes really early. Now, the good part of that is I'm safe. Yeah. Right? The bad part is I'm not learning to use this vehicle to its potential. And one of the things I learned too was when I did hit the brakes, I wasn't hitting them anywhere near as hard as I should. So there's this thing that hit me is most people treat their bodies and their nervous systems like an amateur race car driver. And when the professional got in the seat, so the professional gets into the seat, and I'm going to make an analogy back to the nervous system or health in just a minute, but the professional gets in the seat and they're like, okay, you did all these laps. And I was sweating. I was full sweat to where we actually took a break at one point. And he's like, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just, it's like, it's a lot. Yeah. And so I'm taking a few breaths and I'm trying to calm down my nervous system. And he's like, you ready to go? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go again. And by the time we were done, I had probably lost 2 or 3 pounds of sweat. My clothes were soaked, especially under the armpits. And he's like, all right, cool, we're done. And then they're like, we're going to switch. And I'm like, what do you mean we're going to switch? I'm going to get in the driver's seat. You're going to get the passenger seat. Immediately, I was like, no, because I knew I was already full, nervous system. We get in that car, and he's taking it a little bit faster than I am on the straightaways, but the scary part was he was going into corners significantly faster, braking significantly harder, and before I would feel comfortable letting off the brake and going back to the gas, he was jumping back on the gas pedal, launching out of a turn. And the crazy part is sometimes you can see the next turn is only 300 feet away, 100 yards away. Yeah. And I'm like, why are we hitting the gas right now? That's a turn right there. And we launch into that turn. You sound like me in a car. And he's right back on the brake hard, pulls the turn. He's right back on the gas. And you're sometimes doing this 2-3 turns in a row. And I'm like, and the craziest part about this was this driver was so good the whole time. He's like just chatting it up with me. He's like, you see how I'm doing this? And you see this? And here's where I would be braking. And look at this. At this turn, there's the apex. Here's the apex. We're going to brake hard here. One time he actually told me, he goes, we broke pretty hard on that one. We hit over 1.5 Gs, like enough to make me feel like I was coming out of my seat. And I remember he told me, he goes, we can go slower, but I just love the gas. And he goes, but if you love the gas, you have to be willing to hit the brake hard. Yeah. And so this was crazy. So there is an analogy here as it pertains to your nervous system. And your nervous system has a couple divisions. And so number one, there's all the things you guys can control. And so that's called your voluntary nervous system. That's moving your arms, moving your legs, etc. But the part of your nervous system that controls healing is broken into 2 categories. And that's the division of that's called your autonomic nervous system. I mean, you don't directly control it. That's your heart rate, your breathing rate, Like you might think you control your breathing, but then a bear jumps in the room and you start breathing very differently, or you're in a race car with a professional driver and down the straightaway, I remember going, and then there was probably some expletives around turns and stuff, but we don't control those things. We don't control our healing, but our nervous system does. And so that part of your nervous system called your autonomic nervous system. And Ashley, I'd love to hear like your take on this, because I can get like kind of technical into this.
Yeah.
And I want to hear like I talked to you about this, and you had some really good thoughts on it. But you have your autonomic nervous system, which is divided into two parts. One called your sympathetic, that's your gas pedal, and one called your parasympathetic, and that's your brake pedal. And what I mean by that is your gas pedal is when you're going through life and there's stress or there's something you have to do. And most of us just going to work and knowing we have tasks ahead of us or schedules or this, that's our sympathetic nervous system. Our sympathetic nervous system is the gas pedal. And then our parasympathetic nervous system, so that's fight or flight, right? We're either fighting in life. We don't hopefully fight anymore,
right.
But you're fighting at your work to make an income, and you're fighting schedules, and we're fighting. So we're in this chronic sympathetic gas pedal state.
Yeah.
And then the other state is the brake pedal, and the brake pedal is rest, digest, and healing. And I've experienced this where I've had the gas pedal down so hard, so long, that when you're coming into a turn, you either are braking too soon, too late. Too late can be disastrous. Yeah. And that's where when you don't rest enough, when you don't give your body the chosen rest, it was a great quote. Rest is best when it's chosen, not enforced.
Yeah.
And so going into a challenging season, there are times you have to hit that brake pedal and sometimes hit it hard.
Yes.
And hit it hard. Why? Because you need that rest. You need that healing. And then what's weird is sometimes we don't go right into what the professional would do, is go right back to hitting that gas pedal. We don't hit this hard enough, which doesn't allow us to then use our bodies and hit this hard on the other side of it.
Right.
And so, just that idea of there are seasons.
Yes.
Seasons of stress, seasons of healing.
Yes.
And on the track, the length of the track, there were far more seasons of the sympathetic, the gas pedal.
Yes.
The total length was more gas pedal. But what I found, and this is interesting, when there were turns where you're hitting the brake, there was several in a row sometimes. You ever heard bad things come in?
Threes.
Yeah, so that was the turns. The turns came in twos or threes.
Yeah. And there's a rhythm to them.
Yeah.
Right. And there's something very in the health analogy of that, like this driver knows the rhythm of the track. They know what's happening. They know the rhythm of the car. They know what's happening. They know the instrumentation. He was talking about how like reading the tires, like the heat of the tires, and like all of these things that you were like, how is this guy know all these things about this machine the whole time he's driving it? And the interesting thing about this is that, like, for as amazing as that Porsche, did you say Porsche or Porsche?
Porsche.
Porsche? Is that
Porsche?
I didn't. That's news to me.
Yeah, it's German.
Right. So for as amazing as a vehicle as that car is, right? It is nothing compared to your body.
Yeah.
It is nothing compared to the instrumentation that your body has, that your brain has, that every single cell in your body does, every single item. And it is, your body is so phenomenal that there's not a single human being on earth that has
that's really good.
fifth of the understanding of what your body is capable of doing.
And even that car required a human who knew how to use that car.
Right.
So like the car is impressive.
Yes.
But without someone who has learned how to use it,
right,
it was far less impressive when I was driving it.
Right.
It was far less impressive.
I think it was great when you were driving it.
No,
it
was exhilarating, but once I was like, oh, I thought I was driving this car.
Yeah. And I don't think, and like, listen, here's an interesting thing, because in your mind, there might be a place where you go where you think, because here's the deal. Your health is always better when you have a coach there that's helping guide you through it. Like, it just is. Like, like, show me somebody who's on their own, who's figuring out things and trying to navigate through it. Like, even the coaches have coaches, right? Even the health people have health people with them and for them and working with them in collaboration. So
yeah, show me an area of your life that you do really well, and I'll show you an area of life, whether you know it or not, that someone gave you guidance or coaching in that area at some point in time.
Roadmap, spirituality.
So even if it was like marriage, if your parents were just a great example of marriage, and even if they weren't like talking to you about marriage, you were being coached the whole time.
Yeah. You want great spirituality, you read the Bible. Like it's like it's it's 1 + 1 = 2. Like that's your guide, right? You want to see people that have that high spirituality category, like they have those values that are dialed in a practice and that, right, where they've developed that. And same thing with marriage, and same thing with child rearing, and same thing with like every single thing that you go to. And I'm not saying that you need 500 coaches in your life, but there's always people that are mentoring you, right? Like that used to be the thing. It's
good.
Like at church, it was like there was these old ladies that mentored the younger ladies. There's these like men that mentor other men. Like there's so many of that, right? And so having that coach in the car and having somebody that like teaches you and guides you through it, to understand the rhythms of your body, to understand the rhythms of your nervous system, to understand the rhythms of just how it all works. And listen, like stress, when we were talking about that sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, that gas pedal with the sympathetic nervous system and that brake pedal with the parasympathetic nervous system, there's all sorts of things that could be happening in your life that are doing that. And some of them are damaging and some of them are easy. And some of it's like, dude, you do drugs and you shouldn't, or you drink too much and you shouldn't, or you're not, or you eat it out. You go out to eat and you eat fast food every single day. We let I let our kids go to school and buy lunch last week, and my son and daughter both came home sick, and they both ended up taking a day off school. And my son looked at me and goes, I get it. I know I've been begging for lunch all day, every day since the school has started. And he was like, I get it.
Well, we give him lunch. He's not begging for lunch.
Yes,
he wanted to buy lunch at school.
He wanted to go to school and buy lunch like everybody else. And he did that day, and he came back and he was like, I get it. I don't want to do it again. And he was like, I felt awful.
It's good.
My body just didn't feel good the next day. And I ended up taking a day off school because he had a fever all day. And it's like, because you knew you got it. Like he got it. He got it after one day. Yep. Some people are piling that on every single day over and over and over and over and over. And then some people have a lot more healthy choices that are going on in their lives. And some of the stress on their sympathetic nervous system are different things that sometimes you just sit down and you realign.
Yeah. So to use a car analogy, there's blind spots. Yes. And one of the things they did with us, now we're going in one direction around a track, right? And there's very few cars around you. In fact, if you were coming up on a car, one of the things they did was if you were going faster, the driver in front of you, they adjusted all their mirrors so that you weren't allowed to look in them. The driver looked in them. Oh. Or I mean, he was the passenger at the time, but the professional was
professional driver.
He was looking in the mirrors because they did not want you distracted.
Yeah.
And they would say something like, hey, move to the right. And they would turn on the flashers for you because they didn't even want you looking for the flashers.
Yeah.
And that meant the car behind you was allowed to pass.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. We were so amateur that we weren't even allowed to use our own mirrors, and we weren't even allowed to touch our own flashers. But I want to go to another lesson here, which just further explains this example. The first thing he had me doing was trying to, give it the gas more.
Yeah.
The second thing was after 2 or 3 laps of going faster and trying to go into turns a little bit harder and brake harder and gas harder and all this. We're on the track right now. He goes, dude, and my driver was really good. He didn't like reach over, grab the wheel. He didn't, but what he did was he said, do you feel how tight your grip is on the steering wheel right now? And my fingerprints are probably still in that steering wheel because I was like clutching it and just grabbing it. And it's a great analogy for like when we're hitting that gas pedal, we're going, sometimes we have such a tight grip on it.
And you're a strong dude, babe.
the brake and then the gas out of the brake, what he was trying to teach me, he goes, do you play golf? And I'm like, poorly, kind of like I'm driving. He goes, well, when you play golf, how hard do you grip the club? As soon as he said it, I'm like, the goal is to have a very gentle grip on it. And he goes, yeah, but you grip it with very specific fingers and the rest of them are easy. And he said, here's what I want you to do. And he said, I'm going to reach over. I'm going to show you on the steering wheel. And he reached over and with 2 fingers, he pinched the steering wheel like this. And he goes, I want you to pinch it with those 2 fingers and let the other ones relax. He goes, if anything, you can even keep them up if you want to. Yeah. But just pinching with those 2 fingers. So as we're going around the turn, I want to go like this and grab it. And he goes, remember, just those 2 fingers. So as we're going into a turn, he goes, brake, 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 brake. And the braking doesn't require a lot of turning because you're braking right before the turn. And then he goes, all right, now gas. And as I gave it gas, he goes, pull the wheel just a little bit. And what was funny is when you give it the appropriate amount of gas and your grip, you're not overcorrecting and oversteering, then what happens is that car, the speed, it literally pulls you around the corner. Oh my gosh. and so you think like you're having to brake longer. And he's like, no, if you brake appropriately and you have the right grip, when you hit the gas, as long as you have a little turn on that wheel, you don't have to be
were your fingers sore the next day? I would be gripping so hard.
No, so it was pretty gentle. And then he's like that steering wheel, it's easy. But what was really cool about it was when you're braking, sometimes you have to let go of a little bit of that perceived control.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's a great lesson in life. I think that when we're hitting the brakes hard because we know we're under stress or we've been going too hard or something's going, it's relinquishing control, trusting. So in this case, the vehicle, but in our case, our bodies. Right. You have to trust that your body, as long as you give it the break, as long as you give it the rest, that your body knows how to get you through those braking periods and knows how to recover. It knows how to heal.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. And it's true because listen, there's so much with that gas pedal down, right? Like we're so used to the emails and the deadlines and the notifications and the parenting and the teachers and the pressure and the stress and the sports teams and the that like the second that we press the brake on, the first thought, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm the only person in the world that feels like that, but the second I press the brake down, I'm like, what can I fill this space with?
Yep.
Like, what can I do?
I took some notes on this.
What do I do next? What do I do now? Where do I go? How do I fill it? How do I fix it? How do I do it? Like, what do I take? What do I put in my body? What do I need to,
And it was just, it doesn't mean you're not conscious of it. Just, you got to relinquish some of that, what you perceived control. Yeah. Because this was actually less control than this was. Yep. This was actually control. And this was, I was going to overcorrect and end up God knows where.
Yeah. I was going to take 27 pharmaceuticals because I was thinking, I got to do this. I got to go to this doctor. I got to get this prescription. I don't feel good. I'm like whatever it is.
So this is from some of my notes as I was thinking through this. Stress isn't the problem. So like we think stress is the problem. And the answer is no. Unmanaged stress with a dysfunctional nervous system is really the problem. So when you can't manage stress, your body is designed to shift gears. You're designed to go from sympathetic to parasympathetic. We take care of, like, when you see these people, ADD, ADHD, kids who have behavioral stuff and all this, they're stuck with that gas pedal down and they're not managing that stress between gas and brake really well. Right. Our body was designed to use the gas when needed. It was designed to use the brake when needed. But here's the chiropractic takeaway. When your spine is out of alignment, there creates interference within the nervous system. Those subluxations of your spine, when those vertebrae misalign, they put stress on nerves and they interfere with the body's ability to regulate its own gas and brake pedal. So you have a choice in your life over, the gas and the brake pedal sometimes, but internally your body is also regulating the gas and the brake pedal, your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Remember, we said it was autonomic. Like, you don't control it all. Your body is having to adapt to the stress that you're putting on it. Yeah. So there are times that we choose rest, but one of the ways that you can choose to regulate your nervous system is you can choose to remove the interference so that your body can then appropriately hit the gas and the brake. How do you do that? That's what chiropractic care is. And when we started off, I used a quote from a mentor of mine where he said, chiropractic is the simplest and most elegant solution for healthcare. And I really believe that because it doesn't require you doing anything. When people lay down on our table, as we examine an x-ray, we see where the subluxation is and we adjust it. We're not doing anything to try to control anything. We're just removing interference so that their autonomic nervous system can start to regulate that gas and brake. When we're stuck in that sympathetic fight or flight, we're stuck with that gas pedal down. That's why most people get sicker faster. That's why they age faster. That's why they break down faster. But on the racetrack, that's a crash, right? That's disaster. And then in their health, that ends up as a crash. That's the hospital. That's the autoimmune issue. That's in real life, that ends up being chronic disease. So the other thing that was really brilliant was that speed is only safe when the car is stable and in control. So let me say that again for your health. Speed is only safe when your nervous system is able to be regulated. Speed is only safe in your life when your nervous system can be regulated. Your productivity, your energy, responsibilities, your stress load. Yeah. That's not the problem. The problem is whether your nervous system can stay in balance during those situations. And chiropractic care is the only thing I know that intentionally removes interference. Like, all right, you can remove certain interferences, like don't eat junk, don't drink pop, don't smoke cigarettes. Those are chemical and nutritional interferences. Everything is either Deficiency, we're not doing enough, or toxicity.
Right.
In our body, deficiency is signals aren't firing well. Toxicity is overabundance of autonomic, stress. And how do you maintain balance? The only way, from a physical level with your nervous system, you can listen to these podcasters and they take Alpha Brain and sauna, and then get in hot and then jump directly in cold and regulate your nervous system. No, well, your body still has to adapt to those.
Right.
So if you're subluxated and your nervous system is being interfered with and your autonomic system is not adapting, how well do you think you're going to adapt from being in extreme hot and then going in extreme cold?
Not as well as the guy whose nervous system is regulated.
Yeah, so the nervous system really is that key. And I love that chiropractic care restores that balance, because when we adjust the spine, we're not just moving bones, we're restoring control back to the system. That goes back to that whole stress and relinquishing the control and understanding that the vehicle knows how to handle it if addressed properly.
Yeah.
And what did he do with my grip? He adjusted it.
Yes.
He adjusted my grip. My grip was like this, and he made one adjustment, and all of a sudden that vehicle was allowing me to use it extremely differently. Yeah. We're giving that body the ability to switch between that gas and brake more effectively, because we're removing that stress by making a slight adjustment, and all of a sudden it changed the game. And the last probably 5 laps, when he was like, don't brake until I tell you to, I was slightly closer. Yeah. I still was terrified to trust him all the way. I think only one time. And when I did it, I remember being like, woo, like around the corner. I'm like, whoa. Yeah. I'm kind of glad I only did that once, because it was terrifying. But
and what's interesting is that if that track was 100% straightaways, it would have been a different experience.
Yeah.
Right? You know, if life was just straightaways, and when you mentioned earlier that really you need the coaching, he really came into effect. It's the corners that take you out. It's the corners of the track that were taking people out. Nobody was going, I'm imagining, unless something, crazy was happening, but nobody was going
No,
off
straightaways are easy.
Straightaways are easy. Straightaways that were easy. It was the corners that you had to navigate, that you had to figure out, that you needed the coaching, that you needed the things. It's those things, it's those times where you need somebody to step in and go, hey, you got to hit it a little sooner here, and you got to hit it a little later here. You think you know what's going on. You're like, I'm just going to eat an apple and not a donut.
How that looks like in our office is somebody comes in and they're in for their regular weekly adjustment. Okay. And yes, I said weekly. I've gotten adjusted weekly my whole life. And that's the rhythm that I really recommend for most people. We have patients who come in biweekly, and frequently, sorry about that, guys. Frequently I'll adjust them back to weekly, because that's what I believe is the right rhythm. So what'll happen is they'll get into a biweekly, rhythm, and then they go through a period of stress, and biweekly just isn't enough. Yeah. So in a car analogy, it's like, how often are we checking the tires? How often are we checking the brakes? I'll tell you it's after every single drive. Yeah. They're checking the tires, they're checking the brakes, they're checking the feedback from the system, and they're going, before we put somebody else behind this vehicle that just signed a liability waiver, let's make sure that the vehicle is functioning to its optimum, right? Yeah. And that goes into this last part I really wanted to talk about. No race car driver waits till the engine blows before they, make sure their car is serviced. No pilot waits for warning lights before checking their control systems, because we don't wait until a brake pedal fails to know that the brake pedal is not working right. So regular chiropractic care is about constant checking. So patients will come in, they're in a season of stress, and they're making their weekly adjustments. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh my gosh, I've been working 70-hour weeks for the last 2 weeks. I'm like, really? What do you normally work? 40 hours. We got this meeting coming up. We got a buyer coming in, blah, 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 blah. 70 hours a week. The kids have, sports. Those don't end for 2 weeks. My daughter's got a recital. The dog threw up all over this morning, whatever it is, they're under a ton of stress. Yes. Their house flooded. We told you guys about that one. Yeah. And what I'll tell them is, make sure you get an extra adjustment in this week.
What do we had oh my God, it was so sweet. We had a grandpa that came in after he was in the bounce house with his grandkids on Easter. He was 60 something years old in a bounce house with his grandkids. Yep. He was like, I needed to come in today. It was Monday morning. He goes, I need to come in today. I had a crazy Easter. I was like, what happened on Easter? He goes, I got the bounce house with the grandkids. Yeah. He knew.
Yeah, he knew. And his scheduled appointment wasn't for later on in the week. Yeah. but he didn't want to wait 5 or 6 days on, in this case, like I was the amateur driver, right? So I'm not checking the tires. I couldn't even pay attention to what wasn't happening outside of the windshield. So I'm not checking the tires. I'm not checking the brakes. And the driver the whole time is keeping an eye on the tires, keeping an eye on the brakes, checking the readings coming back from the computer. Like that's the crazy part about these cars. They have monitors on the tires. Like you can tell if they're heating up.
Yes.
And when he was driving, he knew when it was time to stop because he goes, hey, our right rear tire is heating up quite a bit. I don't like it. And he pulled off for a second and we did another thing. There was this really cool one where you would drive and this plate would kick your back end out one side or the other and you had to recover the car. Yeah. So he knew that didn't require the same. So we would go over there and do that for a few minutes. Yeah. And then we get back on and he'd be racing once the tires cooled down. Yeah. And it was cool to see how real time he was monitoring that. So in a chiropractic office, that is your weekly adjustment. Yeah. That's your chiropractor monitoring whether your nervous system is being regulated, checking for subluxations, adjusting them, removing interference so that that vehicle can continue to perform. The vehicle, meaning your body, is continuing to perform to the level of stress that you're currently putting on it.
And you take care of the car so that you have the car for a long time, right? You take care of your body for longevity.
Yeah, and
that's what this is.
Well, and it's not about pain, right? Like, don't get me wrong, we're good at that.
Yes.
We're good at that.
Excellent.
But it's not about pain. It's about performance. It's about balance. It's about regulating the system that keeps you alive and controls everything. It's how we stay out of chronic stress. It's how we prevent disease. This is how we restore hormonal balance, immune system strength, digestive function. Yeah. Think about this. We're going into a time of year where is that higher or lower come around the holidays for most people?
Much higher. I mean, if you had to rate the 12 calendar months of the year in terms of stress level, most people would put November, December on the very top of the list of stress.
So when should our patients be getting adjusted more than they usually do?
November, December.
Yeah, because the stress is higher. Yep. And some of it's like chosen stress. Some of it's schedules and parties and fun and this and that and buying presents or whatever. Yeah. But that chosen stress adds to more bills, less of you maybe doing some of the things you should be doing, working out, resting, meditating, praying, hopefully not, but it's easy to hit the gas so hard. And then are you getting checked more often? Are you even, sometimes here's the crazy thing. Sometimes people go through stress. It'd be like driving this car around the track and being like, man, I've been driving really fast. I don't have time for the pit stop. I don't have time to cool down the tires. Like we got to keep going, blah, 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 blah. And like that is going to lead to disaster.
And here's the thing is that in life, here's a big difference between life and the racetrack is that in life, the person who wins isn't the person with the fastest car. It's not the person who has the most notifications on their phone, the busiest schedule, the most things that they're doing, the most, like all day long that they're just knocking everything out and they have their gas pedal all the way down all the whole time. That's not the person that wins in life. Literally, the person who wins in life is the one who has the best control, right? And not like control over your life and like I have my hands on everything and I'm in charge of all of it, but you have control of the vehicle. Yep. Right. You're the master of that vehicle. Yep. You got your fingertips on it. You know how to do it. You can run. You got the things that are in place. You got the coach that's there. You're listening to them and you just have control of the vehicle.
That's so true. Make it out and you have a great experience. They put us in a simulator experience before they put us in the car. Probably wise. Yeah. And they were recording your lap times. And we had a couple people who scored exceptional, like next to world class lap times in a simulator. Right. And the one thing they didn't do was ever wreck. Yeah. And the other thing was and I remember the guy got out of the simulator, he had a less than like a 1:47 track time or something, which they said anything under 2 minutes is like really good for an amateur. Yeah. They said like 1:30s is like pro level. Yeah. And he had like I think he had a 1:43 maybe. And literally people from the company came in the room. They're like, whoa, who was that? Yeah. And I asked him, I'm like, what was it? And he goes, it's just figuring out, he goes, first lap, just figure out how to manage that gas and brake. Yeah. And he goes, once you do that, he goes, and I noticed I didn't get it. And on the simulator, like hit the wall and I'm like looping around or whatever. Yeah. My fastest track time, I think was like a 1:47. His was like a 1:43. And it was the most boring track, experience on the simulator because it was very controlled. Yeah. It was very smooth. Yep. I wasn't going all out all the way. I was hitting the brake and gas appropriately, and it was just a very smooth ride. And that was the thing with that pro next to me. Like I, as an amateur in the seat, was like, and saying words. And he was just calm. He was just calm, and it was smooth. And he was like, we're going to turn here. We're going to hit brake here. Now gas. We're gassing it. All right, brake. We're going to peak here, gas here. And it was just very methodical. Yeah. And so, in your life, knowing when you're going into a stressful season, how do you get more methodical? Yeah. I'll go back to the chiropractic part for 1 second, is that take inventory right now this season of your nervous system. Take inventory of it. Are you living on the gas pedal? Are you planning on hitting the gas pedal? Are the brakes worn out right now? Before you go into the season, are your brakes already worn out? Yeah. Are you fatigued? Are you are you burning out that engine? Are you redlining it too hard? So now I would tell you guys is the time. Get your nervous system evaluated, get checked. If you get checked regularly, consider getting checked more regularly for the next month. It's just so important that you stay controlled during seasons of that autonomic stress.
And if you have somebody in your life who just has that gas pedal all the way down all the time, send this to them. Yeah. Share it with them. Help them bring a coach into their life so that they can have somebody sort of walk them through what that looks like, easing out that brake, when to hit the brake, when to keep that gas down, when the appropriate time from going from braking to back to that gas pedal is, so that they can really do this with success.
Yeah, we love talking to you guys. We love it more when you share this with people and you have conversations similar to this. The reason Ashley and I have these takeaways is because we came back and we talked about it. So one of the ways that you can really succeed at this time, in this season and in life in general, is share these type of things with friends, talk about them, have conversations around your health, have conversations around your nervous system. And you might be surprised. Your friend might be like, oh yeah, we get adjusted every week. I've had patients before that thought every week, that's a lot. And then they come back, they're like, I talked to 2 of my friends this week. I didn't know this, but they get adjusted every week. Their kids get adjusted every week. And it's funny, but because the reason I ask them is I know that they live healthy and their kids are never sick. So I don't know, you guys, stay adjusted this season for the love of your nervous system. Get adjusted.
And stop driving alone.